Okay, so on the GED test, there are various questions about equations and how to graph them. So you're given a formula sheet, which you see on the left side of your screen here. And if you'll notice down in the algebra section, there are some equations here. So the first that I want to take a look at is called slope-intercept form. And it's this y equals mx plus b here. Slope-intercept form of the equation of a line. So slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b, where m is the slope, b is the y-intercept, and then x and y could be any xy coordinate on that graph. Now point slope form is y minus y1 is equal to m times x minus x1. And you're also given this on the GED formulas page, which will be available while you're taking your GED, and that is this formula here, y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. So on this one, on this formula, m still stands for slope. If you'll notice, there is no b, so we don't have a y-intercept anymore. And x1 and y1 represent a point that you are given. So to write an equation in point slope form, you need an actual point on the line. So when you're calculating and graphing with these two formulas, you could be given any number of key pieces of information. You could be given a point and a slope. You could be given 2 points that would be on that line, or you could be given a graph of the line you're trying to find the equation for and asked to find the actual equation of that graph. So we're going to go through some examples here of how you would tackle each one of these problems based on the information you're given. So this first question says, using point slope form, find the equation of a line that passes through the point 3, 2 and has a slope of 4. So first, we need to understand which formula we're working with here. It's point slope form. That's going to be this one, y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Okay? Point slope form. So let's go ahead and write that over here. Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. So what are we given in this question? Well, first we're given a point here, 3, 2. We know that a point is written as xy, or in this case x1, y1. That means for the equation that we're looking for, an x input would give a y output, and vice versa. So let's go ahead and plug that in. We have our point, we have y1 and x1 in the equation. Let's plug that in. Let's actually use a different color here. Use a different color for each step. So y minus y1, which is 2, equals m times x minus x1, which is 3. So in the point, we use the x coordinate for x1 and the y coordinate for y1. So now we just need the slope. Okay, so we just plug that in. Y minus 2 equals m, which we know stands for slope. And over here, it tells us our slope is 4. 4 times x minus 3. Okay, so this, we have already answered the question because it says using point slope form, find an equation of a line that passes through this point and has this slope. This is in point slope form. So we're done with this problem. Now what if we wanted to take our equation, which is currently in point slope form, and put it into y-intercept form? So y-intercept, we know from looking at our formula sheet over here, is y equals mx plus b. Okay, so if you'll notice in this equation, the difference is the y is isolated by itself on one side of the equal sign, whereas over here in point slope form, there's another number next to the y. So basically, y-intercept form, we've just solved for y. So let's do that. Let's do that from our equation, which is currently in point slope form, and let's use some algebraic steps to solve for y. Okay, so we have y minus 2 equals 4 times x minus 3. So how can we get y on one side of the equal sign? Well, first we're going to have to take care of this 4 times x minus 3. Now using the distributive property, I can distribute this 4 throughout this parentheses and get 4x minus 12. So the distributive property is actually a property of multiplication that says if you have a number multiplied by something in the parentheses, you can distribute that number and multiply it by everything in those parentheses to get rid of the parentheses. That's a lesson that you can go over in an algebra class, which we do have in the Google Classroom. But for now, just know that I can distribute this 4 and turn 4 times x minus 3 into 4x minus 12. And then we'll drop our y minus 2, add 2 to both sides, and we get y equals 4x minus 10. That looks pretty familiar because now it is actually in slope-intercept form. So let's go on to our next one here. Using point-slope form, again, we're using point-slope form on this question. We're going to find the equation of a line that passes through the point negative 1, 4 and has a slope of negative 3. So even if this question didn't say using point-slope form, the fact that we're given a point and a slope kind of indicates that you would use point-slope form to figure this out. If you're given a y-intercept and a slope, then maybe you would do slope-intercept form because that would be easiest to plug that into the equation. But given a point and a slope, even if we weren't told to use point-slope form, the easiest way to graph this line would be to go ahead and put it into point-slope form. So, but we are told to use point-slope form, so let's go ahead and do that. Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. So we go y minus, remember, these are our x1 and y1 up here, these coordinates in this point. So y1 is 4 equals m times x minus a negative 1. And when you subtract a negative, you're actually adding a positive. So x plus 1. So now all we have to do is plug in our slope. Sorry, that's supposed to be a subtraction sign. Y minus 4 equals m, which is slope, so negative 3, times x plus 1. And we are all finished there. So again, if you just wanted to put that into slope-intercept form instead of point-slope form, all you would need to do is just a few mathematical steps, and that would get us there. So let's go ahead and do that, just to show you that it can be done. So we're in point-slope form. We're in this, y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1, and we want to go to this, y equals mx plus b. So to do that, all we're going to do is distribute this negative 3. So negative 3x, and then negative 3 times 1, well, that's also negative 3. Then we drop our y minus 4. We're just going to add 4 to both sides. and you get y equals negative 3x plus 1, which is now in slope-intercept form. Let's go on, let's do another one. This problem says using slope-intercept form, find the equation of a line that passes through the points 1, 4 and negative 3, 0. So off the bat, we notice that we're dealing with slope-intercept form now rather than point-slope form. We could plug these two numbers into point-slope form, and I'll show you how to do that, but this question's asking for slope-intercept. So first, let's get our slope, because we know for slope-intercept, we're going to have y equals mx plus b. So in order to write this equation, we're going to need to find m, and we're going to need to find b. So let's find m first. M is slope. Slope equals rise over run, or change in y over change in x. Okay, and I forgot my e on slope there. All right, so we're given 2 points. We're given 1, 4 and negative 3, 0. So we can just plug those in as, this is our first coordinate, so that's x1, y1, and this is our second coordinate, x2, y2. Okay, and rise is change in y. So how much did we change going from here to here? Okay, how much did we change in our y coordinate? And then how much did we change in our x coordinate? And that's rise over run. So slope is equal to y2 minus y1, which is the change in y, over x2 minus x1. So let's just plug in our numbers. That's going to equal 0, which is y2, minus 4, which is y1, over negative 3 minus 1. That's x2 and x1. So 0 minus 4 is negative 4, divided by negative 3 minus 1 is negative 4, and when you divide a negative by a negative, they actually cancel out and become a positive. And then 4 divided by 4 equals 1. So after all that, we have our slope. So let's go ahead and erase this part and plug in our slope to the equation. So now this becomes y equals 1x plus b, and you don't even need the 1 there because 1 times anything is just going to be whatever you're multiplying the 1 by, so it can just be y equals x plus b. So we have our slope, which is 1. Now we need to find our y-intercept to put this into slope-intercept form. So to do that, we just need to plug the coordinates for one of our points here into this equation and solve for b, because here we have 2 sets of x, y, right? So we can actually plug either one of these into the x and the y for the equation and solve for b, okay? So let's go with the first one, and I can actually do both just to show you that it's possible. So y equals x plus b is our equation so far. Remember, we're solving for b. Let's go with this first one here. So 0 equals negative 3 plus b. Okay, so we would just add 3 to both sides to isolate that b, and 3 is equal to b. So we know that the b in our equation should be 3. Just in case, just to check our work here, let's go ahead and do it with the other point as well. So we have y equals mx plus b, and then let's plug this x and y coordinate in. So we have 4 equals 1x plus b, because 4 is our y, and 1 is our x here. So 4 equals 1 plus b. We would subtract 1 from both sides to get 3 equals b. So in both cases, and in the case of any point on this line, you're going to get 3 for your y-intercept. So now, finally, we can write our official equation as y equals mx plus b